What's up, YouTube? It's your boy Amaro, back again from this time Regionals Pasadena in LA. I'm very excited. It was a very great event, especially for my team, first or last, and our point 0.5 member, Ismael Sanchez, which I'm really looking forward to this video because he is actually here with me. What's up, Ish?
What's up?
Yo, well, hey, congrats again on your top. What place did you get again?
Got second.
Nice, man. And of course, it was with Mathmech, the deck that we will be reviewing today. Congratulations, bro. I'm really proud. Ishmael's been a longtime friend of mine. Honestly, my longest friend and a brother to me. More than friends, we're family. I love this guy, and I love to watch him see him grow. And it's exciting to be here with him. So again, congratulations to everybody else who did great. First place winner, Kyle Waterbury. You killed it. You deserve it. He also piloted Mathmech, so you know this deck's insane. And with the new support coming out, it can only be better. And then shout out to Daniel Ramirez, who got seventh and did a B2B. He just topped the Vegas regionals, and then bam, another one right back to back. So congrats to both of you guys. I'm so proud. I'm proud of all three of you. For myself, it didn't go as I wanted to. It was very close with Tier Element, very copium. It would have been nice to top, but hey, it is what it is. Got the invite. We're secure for Nats. Nice. So today, what we're going to be doing is a post CYAC Mathmech discussion. And no other than with my bro Ish, who just topped with it. So his opinion on Mathmech is going to be A1, and I look forward to it. All right, Ish. So you topped with Mathmech, bro. Let me ask you, what do you think about the future of this deck post CYAC?
Fun fact. I only bought this deck for post CYAC, because I started reading all the firewall cards, and I was just like, there's three more circulars you get to play. This deck's insane. So I think moving forward, I think the deck gets a lot more scary. With three additional circulars plus the two extenders that you get off of it. Kind of pseudo extenders. You get to enter like a real board now, so you get to have stuff like you can have like a counter trap set up. You can have the firewall card that came out of May set up now, alongside with stuff like Heat Soul. So instead of just worrying about like super factorial plus a billion hand traps, you're now dealing with all of that still, but with like a counter trap and then a monster that actually does something. So it's pretty scary.
Okay, okay, yeah, man. I know. I've been looking into these cards, and honestly, it does look pretty scary. The deck as it is now is so powerful. The fact that we're just getting a bunch of like you mentioned, more circulars. Circular is an insane card on its own, and God, there's just such a big future for this deck. And if let's just say hypothetically they were to hit something on the ban list from this deck, what do you think needs to go?
I think circular would have to be addressed. It's like I mentioned in the profile from when from Pasadena. I mentioned that this deck is like Salmon Grade 2.0.
Mm-hmm.
Circular is effectively like Gazelle. Um, and that card's at one for a reason. So if they were to address anything, it would probably be that. Um,
Okay,
I
okay.
don't think you can really hit much else. I don't think you can ban Super Factorial because that's like the heart and soul of the deck. Hitting the exceeds is a small consistency hit, but it's not the end of the world. So I think it has to be circular, if anything.
All right, I love that insight. And as he mentioned, go check out his profile from the Pasadena Regionals. It'll give you a good insight on how the deck is played now. Ish piloted phenomenally, and with the new stuff, it'll probably give you a good skeleton for how the deck should be. Given that we have one right in front of you, there's just so much variety you can do with this deck. The one thing that's very interesting about this deck is you could just play it so many different ways. You have the set core, and just the core itself. It's currently how many Mathmech cards or like staple cards is it, and then to the hand trap ratio?
So I played 13 Mathmech monsters. I played, yeah, 13 Mathmechs. I played 14 going second cards, and then the 8 consistency cards with like Small World, Silent Mining Desires. Um I'm sorry, it's 15 Mathmech cards because of the spell and the trap card.
Mm-hmm.
And then just a bunch of and just other tech cards. So it like usually it's about like half the deck is the engine, and then the other half is whatever you want it to be.
All right, man. I love that. I love that. And honestly, this deck only gets more scarier. Post Syac, we are beginning to receive more one card initiators. Um, being that these firewall cards do combo with cyber so very well, and the synergy with just Mathmech is ridiculous. What me and Ishmael are going to do is we're going to be reviewing the cards. We're going to talk about the deck and pretty much just discuss how he would approach the deck post CYAC. And of course, like, maybe some insight on how he piloted it and what synergizes the best, and like cards like Small World, which are the best bridges, things like that. Um, there's so much spice that I learned from Ishmael over this weekend regarding Mathmech that I felt like you guys should definitely hear his insight too. And let's go ahead and let's jump into this profile. This is going to be post IAC Mathmex. Right off the back, we have 3 Droll and Birds. I'm just going to go over the hand traps, then we'll hit the Mathmech Firewall, those good cards. We have the 3 Droll and Birds, the Bells, the Ghost Ogres, the Nibiru's, and that isn't even what they're limited to. Hypothetically, if you were to adjust your hand traps, we also have Gamma. I overlooked that. What would you want to for sure play next format, going into the next format, blindish?
So going into the next format, assuming that nothing changes as far as like even if we get a list of cash is still in the format, I think the hand trap ratio that I would probably be playing going into CYAC would be probably I still like Drone Lockbird a lot. It still catches people off guard. I think Bells is going to become more of a mainstay in the main deck because I think you're going to see a lot more math. It's just stopping super factorials pretty needed.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think Ogre's really strong because of the super heavy deck. And I don't know 100% how I feel about Gamma going into the new format.
Okay.
Just because of like the fact that you can play builds that like have desires in them. You obviously don't want to banish your driver when you do that. Um, or if you want moving forward, I think cards like Santa Claus and whatnot,
Okay.
stuff like that are going to be more mainstay staples. Also, Santa Claus ends up just being a really good small world bridge because it gets into the new firewall stuff. So you may want to play more cards like that moving forward instead of Gamma, where it's like Gamma can be really high impact at times. Um, but Santa Claus will always do what it needs to do, whether it's either triggering their monsters so you can start playing the game, or just being a small world bridge.
Okay. Okay. I love that. I love that. And I don't know if you've dabbled into the new format at all, but what's your opinion on Nibiru?
I think it's great. Like you have the super heavy deck, which you could just it absolutely just gets hit by Nib. Purely it's a little 50-50. Usually if that deck gets like Nib X, so like you stop like their big play and then they have to like do the second push to try to like have something stick to the board and then you nib them.
Okay.
Um, Overall though, I will say I think um to not respect nib next format is definitely incorrect.
Okay. Okay. All right. Yeah, I could understand that. I mean, right now we're playing pretty free. I feel like when you're comboing, the only thing in the back of your mind is Nib is not going to happen right now. I'm more worried about Gamma. I'm more worried about Ash, Imperm, things of that nature right now. Um, so yeah, keep that in mind, everybody. You heard it first. Nibiru, keep it on your radar because you will get blindsided. And then I think if it resolves next format, it's a lot more impactful than if it resolves currently.
Yeah, well, um, I mean Nibiru on Saturday was crazy
Mhm.
just because like I made the meta call of like I don't think people are gonna rise heart pass at all. I thought people were just either trying to like fully lock you out or they're going for double rise heart. And I caught a lot of people with Nibiru for that exact reason.
Perfect, perfect. Well, that's awesome. Let's go ahead and we'll talk over the MathMech portion now. The Cybers, I guess now that it's not just MathMech. So we of course have our standard layout for MathMech. We have an addition, we have our circulars, our diameter, our sigma, and our subtraction. Then we of course have the SciNet mining, the small worlds, the superfactorial, desires, and equation. I just from looking at this deck, I feel like this is pretty standard. Like you're gonna need all these cards. There's only so much of these cards you cannot play without hindering the consistency or kind of like your odds of not hitting too many like impactful cards with desires, etc. Um, we also have the new firewall cards, which are going to be Firewall Defensor, Firewall Guardian is already an existing card, and then we have Firewall Phantom. These two will be in CYAC. Firewall Defensor will be the following. If this card is sent to the graveyard as a link material for the Cybers monster, you can special summon one Firewall monster from your deck except Defensor. You cannot special summon monsters the turn you activate this except Cybers, which doesn't matter because everything is a Cybers. If a Firewall monster you control would be destroyed by card effect, you can banish this card from your graveyard instead. You can only use this effect once per turn, or each effect once per turn. So that's already insane. You get a free body, which, you know, if we all know Yu-Gi-Oh, that just being able to turn this into two monsters is nuts. With that, we have Firewall Guardian, which synergizes really well with Defensor, and so does Phantom. Because it summons either one of these two, you're going to be able to essentially plus just from opening that one card. So with that being said, one thing that you got to keep in mind, there's a lot of one card combos, whether it be Circular or Firewall Defensor. They still serve the same purpose, except the approach in which you go to them is a little bit different. With Firewall Defensor, you get a Link Rebo, which is nice because it protects you from Imperm, etc. And then you also get to special summon out Firewall Guardian, which will go into things like Splash Mage. Firewall Guardian will summon itself back out when it is linked off for a Cybers. And then you can go ahead and make cards like Alambertian, Laplician, if that's the scenario. And then you have Firewall Phantom. This card adds a Signet card, which Ishmael did mention. You will be able to set up a counter trap next turn. This is the way you're going to be able to net that card. And it also gets you to Signet Mining, which can possibly get you another extender to be able to do way more plays through hand traps, etc. That's why I think Droll will be very high impact. And one thing we could always consider is cards like Cypher and Gammas could always be like crossouts and call by the grave. You could always replace these four with like 3 crossouts and a call by, because everybody's going to be playing the same amount of hand traps, and this deck can just kind of like splash everything that it needs to and make it as effective as possible. So with the Firewall cards, Ishmael, what do you think the most interesting part about this new engine is? This new like starters.
These cards are just crazy, man. Like the fact that like Defensor alone is it's the full combo where you get it's like the full Mathmech board that you make right now, where it's like Heat Soul. Heat Soul draw cards, search super factorial is really insane. It's a true one card combo, which is like insane. You have and then if you open Circular, because typically when you do the Defensor line, you're searching for Circular. If you open it, then you get the counter trap for free, is really crazy. Or it doesn't even have to be Circular, it can be any other extending card. Like if you open like a Diameter, a Subtraction, an Addition, on top of Firewall Defensor, you usually just go straight for the counter trap. And then you have like full board plus counter trap. It's pretty insane. And the fact that like you can very easily small world into them via, like I mentioned, Santa Claus is really cool. It adds consistency to the deck. If you need to, like, if you only open Defensor and nothing else, you can search Signet Mining. So it just covers it covers the hole that the deck had, which was like, if you don't open Circular, what do you do?
Okay.
So the fact that you're getting 3 more that can also just turn into 3 more copies of Signet Mining or a counter trap is just, it definitely is what the deck needed.
Yeah, like, and the deck's already consistent and powerful, being that it's almost a one. It's not a true one card starter. It's probably more on the 1.5. But this card being a true one card starter in the history of Yu-Gi-Oh, we know any deck that has a one card starter is usually one of the top decks of those formats. So with that being said, of course we know the main deck. This is pretty set in stone. What we're gonna want to view next is this extra deck. The extra deck is getting new power cards. One being the Cyber's Discipline. Also, we will be getting cards like Singularity. We will be getting Link Decoder, depending on the variation.
We will not be getting Link Decoder. It's a little sad, but we're not getting that card.
Okay, so that one's not yet. All right. Well, thank you for noting that. We will be. Let's just go over what we got now. Note that card will not be in the next set. I do apologize, and shout out to Ish for knowing that. True Mathmech player at his finest. So, Cyber's Discipline. This card is pretty neat. During your main phase, you could Special summon one cyber monster from your hand, then you can make this card's level become that monster's. When your opponent activates a spell or trap card or effect while you control a Link 4 or higher Cyber's monster, you can banish this card from your graveyard or field and negate that effect. So the summoning portion of this doesn't come up as often or ever, I believe. The reason that you do play this card is because it combos with Firewall, Dragon, Dark Fluid, Neo Tempest, Terahertz. So this card is really neat. Any monsters that activate during the battle phase, you can negate them. You can send one Cyber's monster from your deck or extra deck to the graveyard, and if you do, this card gains the attribute of that monster, and it also gains 2,500 attack, which means that this card makes Cyber's Disarm live immediately, which is nice. And it's also a beat stick, and this card can also help you do things like turn on your Super Factorial, put cards like Diameter in the graveyard so that way you can establish the negates. There's so much synergy with it, and another card that it really goes along with is Aggregator. Aggregator is a card that is essentially an imperm. It is a Cyber's monster. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can target one face-up card on the field, so it's better than an imperm. It targets any card, and negates the effect until the end of this turn. So it's just another point of interaction that you get for free with Terahertz. This card is going to set up an additional layer on top of what already is existing in this deck. As Ish mentioned, you get to go into the Helio play and get more resources like Super Factorial and cards for free, Conflict, which is the counter trap. On top of that, you will be setting up a free negate with the Disarm in this. And you also can get an interaction, which is basically an imprint for any card. There's just so much synergy in this deck. We have cards like Alibertian, Laplician, which are all standard. Access Code Talker, Cyber's Wicked, which we'll see if it makes it through the next format, because there's just so many good cards that this might not even be necessary, but still, true synergy. We have Heat Soul. That card, I've learned the power of this card. This card is insane. It's essentially, you can activate it whenever. You can do it during the draw phase, so it avoids cards like Droll and Lockbird. It gets you the hand traps. When your deck is a majority of hand traps and you've already thinned it out so much, you're bound to only draw more hand traps, which is crazy. We have Lingaribo because it synergizes with the Firewall Defensor and every other card in this deck. We have Splash Mage. We have Transcode Talker. And we have Update Jammer. From my experience of watching Ismael play, I've come to learn that cards like Transcode Talker are insane. The Cyber's cards are just extremely powerful, and I don't know if it's because it's a base arch or like type where the protagonist plays it, but my god, Cyber's cards are insane. So with that being said, what is your take on the extra deck next format ish? Are you going to keep it pretty similar to what you have now? Or are you going to try to incorporate these new combos? What you thinking?
So post CYAC, like so much stuff changes, like quite a bit. I would say changes about the extra deck. Like I mentioned, it is now a build-a-board deck that just built a board off of like one or two cards. Moving forward, the only stuff that I could really see being the same is like the two Allen versions. You probably cut a Laplacian from the extra deck. On top of that, I think Almirage gets to go. Like I only played Almirage and Lingaribo for Mind Hacker and Unicorn. I just wanted, like, if I ever needed to make a link one, I just didn't want them to banish the one and then be stuck. So I think moving forward, that's not a problem. On top of that, I would say, like, maybe cut Wicked. It still searches follow, which is really strong. But for the most part, the extra deck doesn't change a ton. Like, I do fully intend on playing like Terahertz. I think I'm gonna play it over Singularity.
Okay.
Just because of the fact that it does set up another form of like interaction. And then as far as like the target that I'm gonna be playing for, I don't know what I'm playing yet. Whether I'm playing the rank 7 guy or if I'm gonna be playing the Cybers card. They're both really good. It just depends. Like I like them both for different reasons, but we'll see. I have been leaning more towards the fusion guy. Um, just because like one of the things that like this deck can like randomly kind of like one thing not like lose to, but it really hurts is like evenly matched. So like you flip super factorial and you try to snipe the evenly out of their hand. Um, and not every time you're gonna have diameter when you do it. Obviously, you want it most of the time so you can negate it, but just having an extra negate on top of the diameter negate would be really nice. But it's honestly going to be list dependent. Whenever we get a ban list and we figure out what's going to be in the meta, that'll let me know what I want to play.
Awesome. Okay, okay. And I love that you say that. The setting up the super factorial for your opponent's turn, it is almost a little too overpowered to be able to discard one card from your opponent's hand, maybe a card on the field, depending on their setup, especially playing into evenly, because you also get a Omni Negate from the diameter on top of that discard. And then to have like an additional layer of spell or trap negate with Disabor, it just sounds way too powerful already. Like, I'm already thinking about all the lines and plays, and this just sounds absolutely insane. My God, my God. Just even like theorying it in my head, pondering, and like, there's just so many layers. And man, being able to discard one card from your opponent's hand and then get a negate on top of that, it's a little too strong. It's a little too strong. But hey, that's what we got to deal with. This is what you got to look forward to. Super Heavy Samurai, true one card starter deck. We also have Purely, which all these decks are so powerful. Honestly, even Branded, all these decks getting support in the new set, they're just going to be so powerful, and it's going to be a really, interesting format. So, what we will talk about next is we do have just a couple cards that fit in the deck. This isn't like a true side deck. These are just cards that are considered in the deck always. One thing that's becoming very apparent is everybody is going to be playing the five-handed rainbow or five rainbow magician, which is a counter to Super Heavy Samurai. However, this card can also counter Mathmech, if not respected in a sense. So you have cards like Eccentric Arch or Archfiend Eccentric, which essentially out it. You can either place it in the scale and pop it, or you can just place it in the scale and you won't be affected by the effect. Then we have cards like Kurikara, which I know Kurikara is insane. Ish, you had some really good experiences with Kurikara.
I absolutely did.
Yeah.
Car was crazy.
Yeah, I mean, what was that line you were telling me about with the cashier interaction, which was awesome?
Yeah, I definitely did it to a few players, but so like when I built the deck, I knew that Cash was my worst matchup. So like I made the choice to side at Curry Carr for that matchup because of the fact that I played Small World. And that also kind of influenced like the hand traps that I played in my main deck. Because the hand traps I sided were Curry Carr and Lancia, I wanted to make sure that I could always see them off of Small World. So with that, I always made sure that like there was like a ton of different combinations that either got me to Lancia or Curry Carr. With Curry Carr though, into Double Rise Art, you just small world into it, and then they both have to activate, and then I just tribute both of them with Curry Carr, and I don't have to deal with them at all.
It's so free. That interaction alone makes Kurikara superior to what it was already and what it's going to be. This card is going to be so impactful. The fact that it tributes, it plays around a lot of effects, and this is a card that you should definitely be anticipating. If you watch What You Need post CYAC, all the cards that will be involved, Kurikara is definitely on there. That card is too powerful. Currently, the deck is utilizing Parallel Exceed. Do you see yourself testing it still, or you think that maybe there's just so much consistency already that you won't need Parallel Exceed?
I'm 100% playing Parallel Exceed post CYAC.
Okay.
It is just one of those cards that like you either have the one core combo, and then if they nib you, Parallel Exceed's like fantastic follow up because you still play the Link Spider, or it's also just really insane at like pushing through boards.
Okay. I love that actually. The fact that you brought up the point with Nibiru, just having that Link Spider in there is going to be able to trigger this card, and the fact that you can pretty much net it with like Small World, things like that. There's just so many ways to just keep pushing with this deck. This deck just pretty much does not stop. It's kind of crazy. And then we have Santa Claus, of course. This card has been very popular ever since the 250th YCS. It is a really good counter to Kashtira, but it is also a really good bridge. Cards like this, Kaijus, Lava Golems, tribute cards are all going to be very relevant next set because there will be some very insane boards. When you play against Super Heavy Samurai, they establish a board of 5 negates and things like that. Cards like Wing Dragon of Raw Sphere Mode are going to be very high impact. Lava Golem, cards that just get rid of problem cards immediately. So watch out for these. As Ish mentioned, this is a very good bridge card with Small World. So that's one of the most beautiful parts of this deck too, is everything synergizes. When you look at Small World, everything gets to everything. So you pretty much have a solution for everything. You just got to play your hands correct and it'll work out. Cynet Conflict, the counter trap that Ishmael was talking about. This will be searchable with the Firewall Phantom.
Yeah.
Yes. And essentially, you will be able to do your regular lines. Your one card starter turns into a established board with a counter trap and your super factorial, which means that you have layers of interaction. You can get to Heasel, which is going to draw you a card on top of that, and then you set up your terahertz, and then you have a negate, and just so many ways of interacting. And then there's Mathmech Induction. This card is always in my mind like just an interesting card. Like you could just utilize this for so many different reasons. Is there any way you would consider this card, Ishmael?
Post CYAC, there's like a potential for it just because it acts. It's like kind of like another Ghost Ogre, um, against like the super heavy deck. So if they like start scales, you can hit that, or like if you establish a if you establish the, because I'm probably gonna be siding the perform pal card going into CYAC. One really neat thing is like if you have that plus induction, like as soon as because they have to have like Archfiend eccentric, or like I've heard that like a lot of people are playing stuff like Lanty in the main deck, so they have something that they can set. That can just deal with it immediately, and it's either they have another card that they can set, or they're not playing the game.
Okay. Actually, that's a really good interaction that you mentioned. So post SIAC, this is some little tip knowledge from Ishmael. He's giving you guys the sauce for free. People will be playing cards like Artifact Lancia and the artifacts, which are still monster cards, but they can be considered spells and traps when they're placed on the field. That does play around the Performapal 5 Rainbow Magician, which will be a very problematic card if you're not prepared for it. So being able to interact with the card that they're going to set, maybe they're one outer, maybe they just play that card to get around your one card, you can search the out. So you could establish pretty much an unbreakable board and auto win going first because you could search Mathmech Induction. There's so many layers to get to Super Factorial that you could set up this, or you could set up Cynet Conflict as well, and just pretty much feel as safe as possible, and then still have the possibility of ripping a card out of their hand, ripping a card off of the field, having a negate. Wow, this deck is going to be absolutely insane. But with that being said, we are going to go ahead and proceed to the end of this video. I just want to give another shout out to Ishmael, Kyle, Daniel, Team First or Last. Shout out Team Jobber. Sorry, I'm looking in the camera this way. Shout out to you guys. Appreciate the love. And Ishmael, thank you so much for being a part of this video, man. I look forward to your success. You are the mathematician, Zach Galifianakis. Shout out to you, bro. Thank you for being here, man.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, bro. You have a good one.
You too, man.